you got that burning. It's not going to do anything for you, so you cover it with a basket. Now, there's some interesting things that happen when Jesus makes this statement. Here in Matthew, he says, put it under a basket. I think it's Luke's account that says something about put it under a basket or put it under a bed, which is interesting in a lot of ways because, a basket that kind of represents, like, if you imagine how people, like, earn their living, a lot of farming, right? And what do you do with a basket on a farm? Yeah, put stuff in it. Like, you're picking stuff, you're filling it up. So it's like, imagine this as kind of like a metaphor for working. Like, you get so busy involved with, like, work stuff that you forget that you are a light and that you're supposed to be an example. So that's one thing that happens. But the one in Luke where it talks about putting it under a bed, what do you do in a bed? Sleep. And so have there been times where your zeal or your spiritual fire has been put out because you were working too much, or has it been put out because you're not doing anything and you're being kind of lazy? I would say probably so, because that's happened to me a lot. And so either way you go, you got to watch what you're doing. And so, like, when we're using our zeal, using that light, we need it to be useful to the people around us. Don't cover it up with working on other stuff, and don't be so lazy that you don't do anything with it either. Like, it needs to be out there. It needs to be visible, like a city on a hill, like something that's there so everyone can do it. And on top of this, it said that let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works. So first of all, are there good works we need to be involved in? Yeah, so that they may see your good works. Now, don't stop there, because if you stop there, we can get this, like, prideful attitude of, oh, I need everyone to see how good I am. And so I want you to, like, look at how many good things I'm doing and get excited because I'm so good. But what does the rest of the verse say? There it is. So that they may glorify God. So no matter what we do, like, we need to be involved with great stuff, but we need to always give the credit to God, so that when people look at us and see all those great things that we're doing with our zeal, realize it's not me. It's not. I didn't come up with this. This is God who is working through me, and so that they may glorify God, not glorify me. Like, just we need to deny all of that. So that's hopefully helping us to get started thinking about how zeal works and how, when we're doing what we need to do, God is glorified, not us. So that's where we need to be pushing towards. Okay, this little section on the side, warming up. I also like this verse a lot. Someone turn to Jeremiah 20 and verse 9. Now, the little message here is God's message cannot be locked away in your heart. It burns within, demanding action. So when you get there, somebody read Jeremiah 20, verse 9. Awesome. Thank you very much. So what happened there? Jeremiah was like, I had this message, and I didn't really want to, say anything about it. But what happened because of that? Yeah. So there we go again with the burning metaphor. Like, this zeal is like a fire. Like, if we have that zeal and we have the message that's inside of us, and we try to, hide it under a bushel, no. I'm going to let it shine, right? Because this connects back with the other passage as well. Because when it comes to what God wants us to do, once we have that zeal, once we have the message, once we have what He has given us, we can't just stifle it. We can't keep it inside. And it should feel like a burning in our bones. It's just like, I got to get it out. I got to, do something with it. Now, sidestep here, I will say that doesn't mean that you should just speak without thinking and just yell at people and be like, hey, be a Christian. Chill, use some wisdom with that. But, there is the sense in which we need to be excited. It needs to be something that comes from within, and that we are doing what we can to use it and magnify God's name. And so that's what we're doing with this message. Okay, any thoughts on any of that introductory stuff before we dive in? I like the way that a lot of times in this book, different chapters, we look at different characters. Like last Wednesday, we were talking about Elijah and looking at some stuff with him. We've looked at several different people throughout this. Today, we're looking at Nehemiah. And so you may want to turn to Nehemiah to be ready for that, because we're going to hang out there quite a bit. But we're going to see Nehemiah's action. Now, keep in mind, like with all of these character studies that we're doing, everyone that we're looking at, everybody has different personalities, right? And everybody approaches things in different ways. And so I don't want you to be like, well, I'm not like that at all. Like, I'm not like a Nehemiah. Well, that's okay. You might not be a Nehemiah. But let's just look and see how he did things, so we can maybe learn some things from that and use what you can. We all are individually different, and we all, have different areas of strengths and weaknesses. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you to look at these and be like, well, I can't do that. I'm not that. I'm not. Yeah, I doubt that you're a cupbearer for a king. I really don't think that's your job. Well, I don't know. I might not know some of you as well as I think I do. But we all have different positions and different things that we can do. So just keep that in mind. Now, in this introductory section, before we actually talk about Nehemiah, it talks about in Acts 17, verse 6, Paul and Silas were described as men who have turned the world upside down. What does that mean, that they turned the world upside down? What were Paul and Silas doing that would turn the world upside down? Here it is. Teaching a different doctrine than what the world was used to hearing. And even the Jews, what they were used to hearing. And so it was turning everything upside down. And so, when we think about the things that we can do that have the most impact on the world around us, there's some great things, like physical causes that we can be involved in. But the greatest way we can impact the world is by spreading the gospel. That's how they turn the world upside down. So don't think that that's not going to make a difference in the lives of people, because it will. And, they were making a difference for everyone they came in contact with. And so that's really good. Now, something also to consider with this. Sometimes we get in our heads that if we can't do something that impacts thousands of people, then it must not be worth it. But we need to stop thinking like that. Because if we every single Christian in the entire world started thinking, all right, I'm going to affect the people in my life, the ones that I come in contact with on a daily basis. If we can do that, and every single Christian in the world did that, and then the influence that we have on others to live godly lives, if everyone else started doing that too, see how it spider webs out? And we can change the world. And actually, it's not us. It's the Lord anyway. It's God working through us. So the subtitle of this lesson is Changing Your Corner of the World. Don't think I'm not making a difference if I can't impact people in Zimbabwe or, Russia or whatever they call it now. Any of them, it doesn't matter. No, where you are, you can make a difference to the people around you. You can be the light of the world. You can be the city on a hill. You can be somebody that impacts those around you. So, don't think that you are insignificant because you don't have, world-reaching effects. You don't know what God can do through you. So, just be faithful. Be diligent in what you can do and share that. And, that very action alone can help turn the world upside down. So, it's really exciting. It really is. Now, let's look at Nehemiah. Nehemiah specifically had a task. Now, do you remember what Nehemiah was tasked with? And it wasn't actually something that someone said, hey, Nehemiah, you need to do this. It was something that he noticed. What did Nehemiah want to do? Yeah, there you go. So he wanted to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Why is it important, especially in that day and time, for the city walls, the walls of the city, to be rebuilt? What did that help the city do? Yeah, protection. Because, we had, after the Babylonian captivity, after a bunch of people were taken out of Jerusalem, a lot of Jews lost hope. They were just it's all over now. It's obvious God doesn't like us anymore, and he doesn't want us, and we're not special, and this is just terrible. And so it took a lot of prodding to get people to actually move back to Jerusalem. It took a lot of prodding for the people to rebuild the temple. Like, that was a huge deal. And now it's taken a lot of time and effort. Like, the walls around the city, like, they're just sitting ducks. Anybody could come in and just take over, and they couldn't do anything about it. And Nehemiah was like, nope, we're not going to do this. No, we're going to go and we're going to get to work, and we're going to get this wall built. Now, hopefully I'm not spoiling anything for you. How long did it take that to happen? Do you remember? Starts with a 50 and ends with days. There we go. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Nice. It was 50 days. And after, like, just imagine that. Like, Jerusalem's not, like, small and tiny. And for them to build, like, the whole wall in 50 days, like, that is lightning fast. And I don't know if you remember a lot about that story. Now, Kyle just preached on this, like, in the past year or two or three. And there was a section where we were talking about how the people were building. Like, was everybody just, like, diving in, building, and, like, putting the stones up? I'm going to give you a hint. There was at least one hand that they couldn't use. Do you know why? They were holding weapons because they were like, we're going to get attacked because people aren't liking this, so I need to be ready to attack. So they had a sword in one hand and they were like doing masonry work in the other. Like, that's pretty challenging and difficult. But still, after that, 50 days and they were done? Like, this is obviously God's helping. Like, you know, that's something that we need to consider. Sometimes when we do work and we face opposition, we're automatically like, this is too much, can't do it, can't handle this. You know, if this was the right thing, surely God would make it easier for me. Probably not, right? You know, if we need to take precautions, if we need to, you know, have a sword in one hand and building with the other, that's what we got to do. But God will help us through that, and He'll help work through that. So there's a lot to unpack with this story. Okay, so let's actually get to what the book says about it. Commitment. This first thing. Determined to make a difference. In the first chapter of Nehemiah, he sees this problem and he's like, we got to do this. And he develops this plan of attack of how to help this situation. And we see that, you know, developing in chapter 1 and into chapter 2 when he actually gets the chance to talk to the king about it and request some stuff to make this happen. But where this all began, in the first part of Nehemiah, so Nehemiah 1, I'm going to start reading verse 2 and just check this out. Hananiah, one of my brothers, and some men from Judah came, and I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped and survived the captivity, and about Jerusalem. They said to me, the remnant there is in the province who survived the captivity are in great distress and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken down. Its gates are burned with fire. When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days. And I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. I said, I beseech you, O Lord of God of heaven, the great and awesome God who preserves the covenant and loving kindness for those who love him, keep his commandments. Let your ear now be attentive, your eyes open to the prayer of your servant, which I am praying before you now, day and night, on behalf of the sons of Israel, your servants, confessing the sins of the sons of Israel, which we have sinned against you. I and my father's house have sinned. Now, take that. Was Nehemiah in Jerusalem? No, he wasn't. He was in the capital of Susa. Actually, that was verse 1. I skipped over that verse, so there it is. He was there with the Persians, and he wasn't part of that original group that had sinned. But still, yet he is confessing his sin, like he said, like the sins of the people that we have committed. He's putting himself in that problem. It's obvious that Nehemiah is just like, he is so worked up about this, right? He is deeply moved because of the situation of the people of God, because they were not where they needed to be at all. And so because he got so worked up, he decided, first of all, he's going to go to the Lord, because that's who can do something about it. So he prays. And not only does he pray, hey God, can you fix this? He was like, no. Let me take a step back and realize why we got into this situation in the first place. It was because of our sin. Because God told them long ago what would happen if they sinned. And, well, that's what happened. So not only does he say, I want to be part of this solution, he says, I want to take ownership of this problem as well. Nehemiah is not wanting to come in as like a bystander and be like, y'all messed this up, but I'm going to come in and clean up your mess for you. Like, he wasn't like that. He came in and said, I'm part of this group too. And I want everybody to be on the same page here. So there was some unity that was built here, even before Nehemiah opened up his mouth to any other person. Like, he put himself there. Then he was able to do something from that point. Now, the whole reason that we're thinking about this is to think through like what we do with problems today. All of us probably have some things like in our mind that when we see happening around us, like we just get really upset about. It's just like some of the injustice in the world. Some of the things that just really get under our skin, and we're like, how can people treat people like that? Or maybe it's like, there's an example here of like providing clean water to people. Maybe that's something that like we notice that there's a problem. Tons of people in the world don't have clean water, so what are we going to do about it? Or have food or whatever. Or maybe we are really upset at how many kids don't have a home, and so like there's just so many issues that you might look at individually and be like, we need to do something about this. Or, well, actually, what happens a lot of times is we say somebody needs to do something about this. That's usually the first thing that happens. But then, once we identify a problem, why not start thinking of ways to be part of the solution? And this helps us because the things that you're more passionate about, you're more likely to actually try and do something about it. And so when you're trying to figure out an area to really hone in and use your zeal on, I want us to be thinking about things that just really, excite us, motivate us, get us up in arms. Maybe it is like the children that don't have homes. Become a foster parent. Adopt somebody. Do something to get or help with that system. Do something. Maybe what happens is you get so upset at the amount of people who are lost, people who are misled. And you want to be part of that evangelistic effort to reach out and to help. I tell you, sometimes those types of things, the things that really just get us going, that can help motivate us even more so than what we perceive as our areas of strength. Because I know a lot of times what we do is we're like, I'm going to analyze my strengths and weaknesses, and I'm going to use my strengths. That's all good, and we need to do that. But part of this too, I think, is finding what we're passionate about, because that, even if it's an area that we're kind of weak in, if we're passionate about it, we're more likely to like do stuff to get better at it to help. Like, for example, like I am just really motivated. People who are lost, like evangelism, like that. Probably not a surprise, but that's one of my things. Like I'm just like, we need to do something about this. When I think about my areas of strength, I do not see evangelism as being one of my strengths. And that's something that I've had to work on and constantly like try to get better at. But it's something that when you pick out something that's an issue and that really bugs you, then you can do something to get involved with that. And you're hopefully more likely to try to get better at it as well. So anyways, that was a whole long statement just to say, find an issue that really motivates you so you can find a way to use your zeal in that situation. Okay, any thoughts, comments about any of that? It's really hot in here for some reason. All right, so the second part of this, communication, speak with clarity. Sometimes, I am so much like this, and maybe the past 5 minutes have illustrated this. Sometimes you get so excited about something that you just like keep talking, and you just can't shut up about it. And sometimes that's good. Like you want to be able to have things to say. But if you're in that moment and you are doing something to make a difference, you want to really be considerate about how you approach people, how you approach the situation. Because, like, imagine this. What if I was trying to evangelize to someone? I was trying to teach stuff. And I got to them, and I finally was able to have the conversation, started it out, and I was like, I want to tell you literally everything about the Bible. Like, I don't know that would work out, right? Because that's just a little too much. And so you need to have like a good plan of attack, how to approach this and how to communicate in a way that gets the message across that you're trying to convey, but not to like overload and bombard people as well. So it's a matter of, one, finding the area that we need to use our zeal in, but then, spend the effort it takes to think through it to figure out how to effectively communicate that with others and get something done. Like Nehemiah. So Nehemiah saw this problem, and he was like, the walls are torn down. And if you're thinking about that, like how many things would be involved in building walls of a city that are thick enough to defend against like attacks and the gates and all that? There's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of things that you have to consider to bring in there. Not only materials, but manpower, and where are we going to get all this stuff? Well, Nehemiah spent some time to think about that. Then, when he approached the king, and the king was like, what do you need? Nehemiah was just like, here it is, boom. Like a sentence and a half, and he had it. It was like, this is exactly what I need. So, that's pretty helpful. Like when we can consider where we need to use our zeal and what we need to accomplish that, break it down and be able to communicate that with others, so we can help with that. All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on that?
As someone who struggles with communication sometimes, I feel like more like Moses. And I'm like, I really need somebody else to say this. And so I think the next part can help people who do struggle with words.
That is so good. Meredith set me up perfectly for this next segment. I promise we didn't work this out beforehand. Like this was really good. Not everybody is the Nehemiah type, right? And like we said at the beginning, that's not everybody's strength. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. So what you can do is find people with strengths that will help accomplish the task to cooperate together. Because remember, it's not that we are in this alone. Like we have other brothers and sisters who can help with whatever that we're trying to accomplish. And you can accomplish more together than you can on your own. So if you're not, if you are a Moses and you're like, I don't speak good, then, find your brother. Like, he can speak good. He can speak good. Obviously I can't. But you find somebody who can accomplish this work. And so that's like cooperation and getting people involved. And this is like really the trick to zeal, because remember with fire, it helps when there's like a lot of fires burning together because it burns even brighter and hotter and all that. So the more people that we can get involved to use their zeal, this is the trick. This is really good. One person's fire alone could burn out a lot easier, but if you've got several people together, all working toward a common goal, you can keep each other fired up, literally. And so it really helps to accomplish this. Nehemiah did this. Nehemiah got some people involved. He went around and got some people involved. Now, here's the thing. There were some people who had pretty high standings that Nehemiah could have looked at and was like, I need those guys because the people know them. They're kind of a big deal. They're important. And they can help accomplish a lot of stuff. Look at the end of chapter 2. You see in verse 19, when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official and Geshem the Arab heard it, they mocked us and despised us and said all this stuff. Those are going to be characters who come up a lot in Nehemiah because they're constantly opposing the work that Nehemiah is doing. Now, if you think about their position and who they were and all this, they had pretty high standing. And so if you're thinking, I want to get people involved that are, pretty important, the more important thing is to get people who are willing to work and willing to do what's necessary. So at verse 18, So Nehemiah is telling the people in Jerusalem this. I told them how the hand of my God had been favorable to me and about the king's words which he had spoken to me. Then they said, let us arise and build. So they put their hands to the good work. He found people that were willing to work. Like, it doesn't matter if like they're impressive or have, unlimited resources or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. If people are willing to work, like, let's do it. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you have. If you can find people who are willing to do that, and there's a list of things that they were able to do on top of page 75. Show initiative to succeed, coordinate their efforts with others, contribute to the areas they care about, zealously go the distance. I mean, my goodness, if you read through chapter 3, it is one of the hardest chapters in the Bible to read because all of the names are super confusing. But you see that the people were working like at their house or next to their house or right where they are, which is kind of cool there. Because if you think about it, the way that the walls of Jerusalem got built, instead of them looking at this as like this is a crazy big project, how are we ever going to do this? It was like, you got one guy who was like, well, I'll take care of this section. It's right next to my house, I'll do it. And then we got the next person like, I'll do this. And then the next person's like, I'll do this. And then you got someone else who's like an overachiever, is like, I got this whole section. And so you see people who are willing to do what's necessary right where they are. And that's how we accomplish work. You do the small things right where you are, which turn into a greater overall effort.
How do you eat? No.
Great. Exactly. I love that. Yeah. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, you cannot eat the whole thing whole, probably. And so it is. It's just a little bit by little bit. And eventually, look, elephant's gone. So I like that. We probably use that a lot in our classrooms. Yeah, it's good. And see, we just get so overwhelmed when we're like, there's so much to do. Well, yeah, there's always stuff to do. There is. But let's break it down. And if this person can do this thing, this person can do this thing, and I can invite 2 people this week, or I can give out 1 card to this person, or I can share this on my social media and show people this, or I can ask someone how they're doing spiritually, or those little things. And I'm using evangelism as the thing there, but it can be any type of thing that we're working towards. Taking care of the needs of the brethren. I'll call this person and see what they need, or I'll call this person and we'll go over here and we'll get a group together and we'll go and fix this problem for whoever. So those are just ways that you can get more people involved, and it's not just a daunting task because we're all just doing what we can where we are. Okay.
So you also don't know where that person will end up going as far as their zeal. I'm just thinking some of the kids, like teenagers, kids even, that you were involved with in college and seeing where they are now, and it just takes one person to get them involved in something for them to then become zealous on their own. And there's a bunch of people who are willing to follow somebody in their zeal, who then can create their own zeal. I don't know if that's very clear. But some people are just looking for somebody to spark their zeal, and if we don't do that, then they might not have that fire later.
That's a really good point. So Meredith was talking about how you never know what kind of fire you're going to light in someone and how zealous they're going to be. I'll tell this as an example. There was a kid when I was in college. He was like 12, 13 at the time maybe. And I was like, hey, you want to read the Bible together? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I would go over there once a week and we would read the book of Mark. And this kid was not paying attention at all. He was very epitome of ADHD. He was like all moving around. I saw him like upside down on the couch, and like we'd be talking, I'd be like, I'm wasting my time. What am I doing here? But that kid grew up to be like he's moved several places to like start congregations in different places, and so he's a faithful gospel preacher to this day. And so it's like, okay, I didn't see that. Like when I was like, man, what am I doing? I could be doing so many more good things right now. But you never know who is going to like take up the mantle and actually get involved and do stuff. So it's cool when you actually see that. Unfortunately, a lot of times we probably don't see the end result. But just be aware, every little action can help. Like it really can. It can motivate someone to do something that they might not have done before.
I visualize the conversation right here between Nehemiah and the people he's leading. I visualize the coach talking to his team, getting his team fired up. And he uses that zeal in keeping with the theme of the lesson, that he sparks that zeal within them. And they said, let us arise and go with us. So he's a motivator. And that's what it sometimes takes. That's how God will use us as a motivator. To motivate the zeal that's already within other folks that are not.
That's a really super point there. I mean, he was like a coach, and he was like, guys, you can do this. And then they all were like, yeah, we can, let's do it. And so they're like, let's arise, let's build. And then they did it. They stuck through with it. And so, like, motivating others is a great spiritual work as well. And so this is why we need all kinds of workers in the body of the Lord, right? We need people who are willing to be a leader, be a motivator, be an encourager, be a servant. And we all fit different roles here, and we all do different things. But sometimes we do need that. We need just a little bit of a push and encouragement, and then you never know where that's going to take you. So that was really good. I want to consider this next section as well. Conflict resolution. Do you think it's possible that if you have a great spiritual work happening, that there could be opposition? I think it's obvious that yes, absolutely. Do you think all of that opposition only comes from outsiders? I think if anybody has been involved in any kind of spiritual work, you'll realize very quickly that it's not just the outsiders that we get opposition from. And we see this with Nehemiah. We'll look at his situation first. So he's out there trying to encourage the people to do this. But then you've got some people who had taken advantage of their brothers. And like people within this group who had charged usury, charged like outrageous interest rates on money they had lent, and all of these things. And they weren't getting along. It wasn't working well. And just imagine what that could do to the productivity of the work that's being done. You got these people who are involved in building the wall, but then like as they're building, they're like, you're out here doing this and like you haven't paid me back, or you're over there acting like you're something special and building this wall, and you took advantage of me, and like that hurts. And so like all of those feelings, Nehemiah just comes out and said, no, guys, like forgive each other. Like just forget this. Like we need to work out these problems in between ourselves so we can be unified to accomplish this task. Sometimes when we don't have good relationships with our brothers and sisters in Christ, it slows down the work, and it makes us upset at the good things that other people are accomplishing, or it just, fills us with anger because of the other, or whatever it is. And so those things can really tear us down. We have to be careful how we approach people. Like, we need to be encouraging. We need to be unified. That's why if you have a problem with somebody, you need to take care of that. Like, you need to go to that person. Don't, like, talk about them behind their back, or, like, just form a little coalition and be like, well, are you noticing this? Are they doing that to you? Like, no, go to that person, work it out, figure it out, so that we could all be on board and accomplish what the Lord wants us to accomplish. Because those types of things, that slows down any work. And we're not going to get anywhere if we're bickering and arguing amongst ourselves. That being said, be careful what you do there. Also, something else that happens, and we've talked about this before, but if someone is doing a work and they're trying to get involved with something, imagine this. What if you had people who were out there building the wall, and they were like, remember, sword in one hand, building the other, and you had their neighbor over there like, that's never going to work. Like, man, you're going so slow. You're never going to get that built. Like, why are you even doing that? Like, and you just, you put one rock up there. Ooh, what? that hurts so much. If we start breaking down other people's work, like, oh, you're out there, like, I don't know, trying to talk to people, but nobody's listening anymore. Like, why would you even do that? Why would you spend time? Don't break people down. And that's something to consider. What about problems? We do have problems coming from the outside as well. And I think that happens. When Nehemiah faced problems from the outside, remember you had like these three guys, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And they sent a letter, and they were like, "You're going to get in trouble with the king. Like, he's going to come, and he's going to like take away your position, and you're going to get punished and all this." You remember what Nehemiah said to him? "Sorry, I'm too busy doing the work. I don't have time to talk." And so that's what he did. He was like, I'm too busy involved with this. Like, I don't have time to deal with this. Sometimes we get so upset at people from the outside that stand opposed to us that we put all of our time and effort to like, no, listen, I'm doing a good work here, and you're not going to take this away from me, and I'm pushing forward, and I'm doing like, no, like don't waste your time arguing with somebody who is just trying to detract, because you know what's happening? They're winning. Like, Satan is getting to you through like taking you away from that work. Like, sometimes we get so upset, and I keep using evangelism as an example, but if someone is directly opposed to Christianity or to the concept of God in general, it's like, it's kind of, we want to have those arguments. It's like, okay, well, this atheist that's trying to take away from the work, I want to like just put all my efforts into convincing him that why this is a good thing. Sometimes, I mean, it's a good thing to try to convince someone, but I mean, some people are just there to argue, and they're not sincere and wanting to find the truth. So don't let that take away from what you're trying to do. You find opposition, you find someone who's trying to just zap the energy that you have and suck the zeal out of your soul, like just let it go. No, you say what you want. Like, it's I'm doing God's work, and I want to just keep going. So we can't let that stuff get to us. Same thing, Nehemiah. He didn't let that stuff get to him. And he continued to encourage the people. He was like, "No, guys, just, got your swords there. You're good. Like, let's just keep going. God is with you." And so we need to remember, God's with us. Now, it doesn't matter what other people think. It's all about what God wants us to do. Now, the last section there is community, address the project and the people. Like, not only is it the work that we're involved in, but it goes back to what we opened up this with, like the unity that we need to have, like keeping people together. And if you start accomplishing things and things start happening and changing for the good, like how great is that? That's awesome. And we do need to celebrate those victories together. And in that, we need to praise God because of that as well. Like, we need to remember it's God working through us. It's not just our amazing abilities. It's because God approved of this message. He approved of what's happening. And so we need to definitely be involved in that. And there's so many ways that we help each other, celebrating victories, studying together, family leadership, personal accountability even. Like, all of that, we see the problems in each other, and we help address that. You remember at the very end of Nehemiah, he has to address a lot of problems, especially like with the whole like intermarrying thing. There was so many problems there, but because of what they did, and they were faithful and they did what they should do. So that was super cool to see. All right, what questions, comments, thoughts do you have on that as a whole? Can anger ever be a good thing? How so? Yes, it is. It's a powerful motivator. When we get angry at something, if there's something that really gets under our skin and gets us going, Nehemiah faced that. But question number 5 talks about this. In chapter Nehemiah 5, verses 6 and 7, he says, "I consulted with myself." And so he took a step back. Instead of letting anger just let him just like outburst and take vengeance or whatever, he was like, let me consider how to handle this. Let me pray about this. Let me really think this through. He was able to use that anger as a motivator to do the right thing. Because, sometimes we're going to face these oppositional things, and there's going to be stuff that happens. And we're going to get angry. We need to take that as motivation, put our anger toward the right thing. We're angry at Satan for taking us away from this, and so we are going to do our best to get back on board and let the Lord work through us. Okay, appreciate all you guys, all the stuff that you had to mention. We will pick up, Lord willing, Wednesday, chapter 16.